go to Mark Pafford. What role, if any, do you believe that the state of Florida should play in the decisions that women make about their own reproductive health?
So since that's an easy answer, I'm going to use the 60 seconds to caution everybody. The governor and the legislature, they've realized that the FCAT's a bad thing, and so you're going to hear that everybody hates the FCAT. Once again, they're going to find a replacement for the FCAT to link it to vouchers. So don't fall for that crock, number one. Number two, go ahead and repeat the question.
Okay, which is completely different. What role, if any, do you believe that the state of Florida should play in the decisions that women make about their own reproductive health?
Absolutely none.
In 1989, the then newly elected Governor Bob Martinez wanted to have a special session on 5 different pieces of legislation that would reduce a woman's right to choice. I was Speaker of the House. We talked about it for 5 days. We signed a die without a bill getting to the floor. Now, at the end of the day, you have to look at what's happened since 1990 and ask yourself what's going wrong, because the rights of women have been reduced successfully on several pieces of legislation, including one that was well described a couple days ago, dealing with ultrasound, that women now have to have as a condition of seeking and getting an abortion. We have to change the debate. This is about women's rights fundamentally provided for by the Supreme Court of the United States. We need to stop reducing them as if we were superior to the United States Supreme Court. Thank you.
You know, we go to Tallahassee and we hear repeatedly, no new regulation, let's not have the government involved. And yet we go, in my first term there were 18 anti-abortion bills and 5 of them passed. So you want to talk about no new regulation, that's an area where there should never be regulation. And any reproductive rights decision should be between a woman, her husband, her family, her doctor, her clergy, but not the legislatures. I will go to Tallahassee and advocate for that, and you can be sure I will make sure that women's voices are heard in the halls of Tallahassee.
Yes, I'm a young guy, but I've heard a lot of talk about this Roe v. Wade and things of that nature. And my opinion, personally, is that we shouldn't try to infringe on any rights that have been won for women, for the people, in this case abortion. However, any system that accounts for 1 million abortions a year or something of that nature is obviously not perfect, and obviously there should be a little bit of, some heroes coming out to try to save some lives. And so we need to do better, we need to do our best, and we need to, be conservative and save life. Thank you.
I also think women's rights should be protected. Me personally, I'm a Catholic, I'm pro-life, but I don't think the government needs to come in and tell you exactly what you should do and what you shouldn't do. It should legislate women's rights. I do think, though, that the government does have a role when it comes to protecting certain people's rights. And when it comes to, an underage, a minor, woman going to get an abortion, something like that, I don't believe she should be able to do it without parental consent. I believe the family should always be involved in all those kinds of decisions. So I believe we have to do protections, and I also don't believe that taxpaying dollars should go to any person's abortion. I wholeheartedly believe that. I think that's your responsibility to pay for it and find some way to pay for it, either through a charity or some other organization. I don't think someone's taxpaying dollars, either federal or state, should go towards that. Thank you.
I would like to answer this question with a very famous quote by a famous legislator from September 30th, 2012. Mark Pafford, absolutely none.
Do you believe that there are parts of the Florida infrastructure that need attention? And if yes, what should be infrastructure improvement priorities, and how can we pay for them?
We are in a recession, and the political realities are there won't be new taxes. So now the only thing left to do is to either ignore your infrastructure needs and suffer the consequences of not being competitive in the world marketplace, or you finance the infrastructure so that you can prepare for the future, grow your economy, and have the ability to have future revenues based upon a growing economy. What will have to happen is in transportation, we need to build multimodal systems in order to have mobility competitive with the rest of the world. And then we have to spend the rest of the dollars that we can borrow on facilities and equipment at education and research centers so we can again grow our economy. Any other decision is economic suicide. So we have to get serious about spending money on the capital side for transportation and education if we want to get out of this recession. Thank you.
I think it's really important that we do address our infrastructure. We've seen where we've had roads and bridges throughout the nation have problems, and we don't want Florida to be in that position. And as Representative Gustafson said, we need to make sure that we have money to fund this, and obviously right now we're having some financial difficulties, and although I feel like things are starting to slowly improve. But I do think one of the big problems with the Florida legislature is that we have been not looked for sources of revenue. We've continued to cut, and failed to look for sources of revenue. There are some wonderful opportunities out there for us. For instance, why shouldn't we have an internet sales tax? Why, when you buy a book at Amazon, don't you pay a tax, but when you buy a book at your mom and pop store, you do? If we had an internet sales tax, estimates are we could get close to $1 billion a year. So I believe that we need to look at revenue sources, and then we can fund our infrastructure. Thank you.
Well, I think the internet is working, and we need to let things work that are working in this time. Also, I think that when it comes to infrastructure, our utilities like water and electricity, these prices are rising, and there's really, all kinds of. We want to build new nuclear power plants. We want to do this, that, and the other thing. But they always want to add things onto your local utilities bill to pay for other things. And I think that would be my main focus, is to focus on the infrastructure, for our life, our water, our electricity. The roads and stuff, this is South Florida, things are relatively new. We have bigger priorities towards the future. We can pay for it with bonds, increasing revenues with the surrounding island nations, issuing permits on travel, and easing restrictions on that sort of thing.
Let's start out as Representative Pafford, now it's just Mark.
Okay.
I'm kidding. I prefer it that way, actually.
Sir,
Oh, yeah.
would you like to answer the question?
Yes, I will.
You don't have to.
No, I intend to.
Okay.
Thank you. So why are we here? We've talked about education, healthcare, transportation. We'll actually, I'll include preservation of the environment, restoration of the Everglades. All of these major priorities in the state of Florida have been put on a back burner because we've got a legislature they're cowards. They don't want to have a big boy, big girl discussion about where we're going to find revenue for 19 million people. When it takes a total annual salary of $3,500 or less to be put on the state Medicaid system, and you're a single parent with a child, we've got big issues. What the state needs to do is they have to begin collecting internet sales tax. They have to talk about other ways to raise revenue. Intangibles taxes would be one of those forms. In 15 seconds, let's do a little question period. Raise your hand if you've seen an increase in your driver's license fee. Raise your hand, keep it up, if you've seen an increase in your vehicle registration fee. That's how the state of Florida decides to turn its back on you. Charge you higher fees and not collect enough taxes to make the state run. Think about that next time you vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Pafford. Under Governor Bush, Florida passed the Florida Access to Civil Legal Assistance Act, which for the first time provided funding for legal services to the poor. As you know, Governor Scott has twice vetoed funding for this bill. What is your position on this bill, which assists, among other things, victims of domestic violence and people facing foreclosure?
I certainly support funding. I'm an attorney by profession, so I understand the needs of people with respect to the legal system, and I support legal aid totally. I believe we need to be funding legal aid. It's very disappointing to me to see year after year the governor veto this item in the budget. And as well as legal aid, we had the discussion with regard to the Senate. You heard about how the state has continued to cut funds for poor, for women, for children, and this is just another example of that happening here in this state, and I will continue to be a strong voice in the budget hearings on this issue and making sure that we fully fund our legal aid system. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know much about the legal aid system. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a hardworking person, and I noticed that the hardworking people are the ones that go home with nothing. They don't get free cell phones, free internet, free nothing. You have to be on government assistance for all these benefits. They give it to the people who aren't working. Meanwhile, you've worked your whole life, and you're sitting there holding, you know, everything for everybody else. So I think we need to focus more on the people that are putting into this economy and the people that are coming to retirement age that have worked their entire life, instead of focusing on all the people that, you know, have problems that they haven't taken care of for themselves. I don't understand.
I'm a big supporter of legal aid, actually. I really think it's a beneficial program, needs to be funded. I've actually seen the need for it. I mean, I'm not a person who comes from independent wealth by any means. I think our legal system has gotten overly expensive. Things to hire a lawyer and go to even fight small, tiny little cases that you don't even want to deal with that cost tremendous amounts of money. And so people who are lower income, who don't have those means to go out and spend thousands of dollars on a lawyer anytime that something happens, some kind of litigation, the legal aid system does come in and help those people when they are in need. So I think it is a valuable program, especially since government's partly responsible for the increases in the cost of our legal system. I think it is, they should partly fund a legal aid system to help protect people who can't afford to go through all the hoops that they have to make you jump through. So that's my opinion on that.
Legal aid should be funded. This is a matter of haves and have-nots, and we have too many have-nots that are just being left behind, and it's just a governor who doesn't care. And it's just not fair. Too much inequality, injustice, unfairness, and it needs to be funded. Level playing field.
You know, to order this question fairly, to answer it fairly, look at everything. So legal aid, right? It's one thing. If you're poor, we could look the other way. But take in combination that the legislature, along with Governor Scott, cut the entire homeless coalition budget for the state. He actually got rid of the Office of Drug Control. We're really worried about prescription drug monitoring. That's what they did. This isn't a matter of, you know, philosophy at this point. They're cutting our throats, and people should be angry. Shall I go on? 20,000 people in the state are waiting for services, and they have disabilities, some more than 11 years. May I go further? 100 low-income frail seniors who need help staying out of long-term care in nursing homes are on wait lists, just like the 20,000 people with disabilities. There is a major disconnect. We have perhaps the most destructive legislature and governor this state has ever seen. Thank you.
I was trying to keep track. The Republican-led legislature seems to have imposed FCATs and merit pay without funding education. And the Republican majority of the Florida House for the last 15 years has invalidated women's rights to choice and reproductive health. They failed to fund infrastructure. And now they're going to eviscerate legal aid. My opponent's not here today. He's only been in there 2 years. He needs not to be there a third year.